Footballers spend their entire lives chasing glory, trophies, records, immortality. But every single one of them, no matter how great, eventually faces the moment they never want to face. The moment they have to say goodbye. In 2026, football didn't just lose one legend. It lost several, all at once. A striker who scored 120 goals and left the only way he knows how, with one more. A winger who cried more in one night than in his entire life. A manager who won 20 trophies and said the most important thing wasn't a single one of them. And a defender who broke down in front of 85,000 people and didn't even try to hide it. This is the most heartbreaking farewell season football has ever seen. And we're walking through every single one. Entry 1. Mohamed Salah. Let's start with the one that hit the entire football world differently. May 24, 2026. Anfield. Liverpool versus Brentford. Final day of the season. The whistle blows. The cop rises. And Mohamed Salah, usually cold-blooded, composed, relentless, stands on that pitch with his two daughters beside him, 55,000 people singing his name from every corner of every stand. And then he cries. Not manufactured emotion. Not a wave and a smile. Raw, unfiltered tears from a man who gave 9 years to one city and left a piece of himself on that turf. He played 73 minutes. Picked up an assist for Curtis Jones. And with that assist, he became Liverpool's all-time leading Premier League assister, 93, surpassing Steven Gerrard. Of course he did. 9 years. 257 goals. 123 assists. 2 Premier League titles. A Champions League. Individual records that will stand for a generation. And after the whistle, speaking to Sky Sports, he said this. I think I cried more than in my whole life. I'm not really an emotional guy. We won it all. We see the love from the fans, and this is the most important thing for me. Then they asked him, will you come back? No. I won't come back. I'll go very far from here. His daughters walked onto the Anfield pitch and unveiled photographs from across his Liverpool career. Salah looked at them, looked at the stands, and wept. A king, leaving his kingdom. Next, a man who gave 12 years to one club, publicly apologized for leaving them once, and then had to say goodbye all over again. Entry 2, Antoine Griezmann. Here's the thing about Antoine Griezmann. His farewell wasn't just a goodbye. It was the final chapter of the most complicated love story in football. 12 years after he first arrived at Atlético Madrid, Griezmann stood in the Metropolitano ahead of his move to Orlando City, joined by his family, his coaches, teammates past and present. The ceremony lasted over 30 minutes after the final whistle. The entire stadium stayed. Every single person. Refusing to leave. And when it was his turn to speak, he didn't open with thanks. He opened with an apology. I know many of you have already heard this, but I want to apologize again. I didn't realize how much love I had here. I was very young. I made a mistake. I came back and we did everything we could to enjoy it all over again. He thanked his teammates, thanked the staff, and then he looked at his captain Coke, called him my favorite chubby guy, and said he was a legend of the club. But then he said the thing that broke everyone. I haven't been able to bring home La Liga or the Champions League. But this means so much more to me tonight. I'll carry your love with me for the rest of my life. Coke took the microphone and responded. He left and it hurt us all. But he showed guts, came back, and scored goals to become the best in club history. At Atletico, beyond the titles, we seek this kind of recognition. 70,000 people applauding you. Then Simeone stepped up. And he said just 7 words. It's very rare for everyone to love you. Atletico's all-time record goal scorer. A Frenchman who became a Madrilenian. Who left once, came back, and built something so deep that 70,000 people stood for 30 minutes just to watch him walk away. Then came the moment that made even neutral fans break. At the Bernabéu, not one farewell. On the same night. Entry 3, Dani Carvajal and David Alaba. Real Madrid had already won, 4-2 over Athletic Club. The result didn't matter, because when that final whistle blew at the Bernabéu, something happened that no one in that stadium will ever forget. David Alaba was substituted in the 68th minute. And as he walked off, one by one, then row by row, then stand by stand, every person in that stadium lifted their seat into the air. A tribute to his iconic celebration from Madrid's Champions League comeback against PSG in 2022. An entire arena holding chairs above their heads for a man who spent 2 years fighting through a devastating knee injury, wondering if he'd ever play again. Alaba took the microphone. He's not a man of many words. But he said this: "I'm shy, but thank you. Seriously. I've greatly enjoyed these 5 years. Thank you for your love. And especially, thank you for being with me during the most difficult time of my career. You were always with me." Then Carvajal stepped up. And that is when everything cracked open. He spoke about his president, about his parents driving him to training as a boy, in the rain, in the cold, about his wife, his children. And then he looked everything for this shirt. Yesterday, today, and always. Hala Madrid. 2 legends. One night, both in tears. And the most demanding stadium in the world gave them nothing but love. Next, a man who won 20 trophies. And said the most important thing wasn't a single one of them. Entry 4, Pep Guardiola. By every measure, Pep Guardiola is the greatest manager in the history of English football. 593 games. 20 trophies. A win rate of 70.8%. A points per game ratio that eclipses even Sir Alex Ferguson. His final game ended in a 1-2 home defeat to Aston Villa. He didn't play for the result. He played the people who deserved to be there: Bernardo Silva, 460 appearances under him. Stones. Foden. When Silva walked out of the tunnel for the last time, both sets of players formed a guard of honor. Silva broke. And Guardiola, the man who controls everything, who shows nothing, grabbed his white t-shirt and wiped away his tears. When the press asked what he was most proud of, he said, "It's a question for the people. Hopefully they enjoyed watching us play." That's Pep. 20 trophies. And his proudest moment is the joy of the fans who watched. The Etihad's expanded North Stand will be named in his honor. His house in Manchester, already emptied. His 95-year-old father was in the crowd. "The players don't know it," he joked, "but I will be there, controlling them." 10 years in Manchester. It was never a job. It was a love affair. And last, a striker who said goodbye the only way he knows how. With a goal. His 120th. In the final minute of his final game. Entry 5, Robert Lewandowski. The league was already won. The final game at Valencia, a 3-1 defeat, meant nothing in the table. Lewandowski is not built for quiet endings. 60th minute. Score still level. Gavi floats a ball into the box. Pepelu heads it away. It falls to Ferran Torres, whose volley is drifting wide. Most strikers don't chase that ball. Lewandowski does. He reads it before it happens, gets his body in position, and diverts it into the net. Goal number 120 in the Barcelona shirt. The last one. On his own terms. He'd already said his emotional goodbye at the Camp Nou days earlier, couldn't score that day. But at the Mestalla, in a game that meant nothing, he made sure it meant everything. 120 goals. For years. One of the greatest strikers of his generation. Gone, with a goal. Of course. Salah crying at Anfield. Griezmann apologizing to 70,000 people. Carvajal and Alaba breaking down together at the Bernabéu. Guardiola wiping tears with his white t-shirt. Lewandowski scoring his 120th in the final minute of his final game. This wasn't the end of some careers. This was the end of an era. Which farewell hit you hardest? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if this hit you the way it hit me, you already know. Hit subscribe. Because we cover the stories behind the stories. And trust me, this season still has more to give. See you in the next one.